I don't know about you, but I have these days or weeks where my creative energy is bubbling over. I'm exploding out of my skin to create and to make new things. And my energy is at that 10 out of 10 excitement level. And then there are times where it's like the tank is empty, the battery is low, as my friend Rocky would say. And sometimes this fluctuation in our energy is totally unpredictable. So we're going to talk about that today because ironically, I had something else scheduled and, life happens and interviews get rescheduled and, no big deal. So I'm doing a solo episode this week and I was going through my list of topics that I've been coming up with. And I was like, I've talked to multiple friends of mine who are experiencing this same energetic highs and lows recently. And I'm like, let's talk about it. Let's normalize this and talk about the best ways to move through it. Should we suck it up and power through? Or should we listen to whatever intuitive nudges are coming through? So we're going to talk about that today. And I'm going to let you know how I deal with these ebbs and flows of energy and creativity. And hopefully it will leave you with at least one golden nugget for the week. So let's dive in. Welcome back to the Messy Success Podcast. I'm your host, Elizabeth Henson. I help creative business owners and artists build communities around your brand so that business is easy and profitable. When you stay in action, yes, I mean even messy action, only good things happen. We are always learning, and when we can get just as excited about the lessons as the results, magic happens. I've helped million-dollar companies with their marketing, but my mission in this world is to help you step into the best possible version of yourself so you can create your dream business too. We believe in community and people over strategies and tactics. Our theme here at the Messy Success Podcast is the 1% adventure, where we're focusing on getting 1% better every single day. I want you to color outside the lines and embrace the messy journey to take daily action towards your goals. If you've noticed a plateau in your business, we've created a very quick quiz where you can find out your next best move. Head over to elizabethhenson.co/next to find out. Now let's get started. All right. And don't forget, it is that time where you can sign up for our April event, Elevate and Inspire. You can go to elizabethhenson.co/event to learn more. We did a whole podcast episode on it. I think just one or two episodes back, not very far back. I want to say it was episode 177 or 178. So you can go have a listen to that if you're interested in joining us. We're still looking for a few more sponsors. So if you're interested in getting your business in front of, 60 creative, amazing business owners, you're more than welcome to do that. Just reach out to me via email or any way of contact is fine. And just say, hey, I'm interested in being a sponsor. So again, that link is elizabethhenson.co/event. It is going to be epic. I am so excited. We're going to be rolling out more and more details as we get closer. We're a little bit ahead of the timeline from last year, so I'm feeling good and I'm feeling on top of it for now. But today's episode, let's talk a little bit about this fluctuation in creativity and what do we do when this happens, because this is totally normal. One of my favorite books about creativity is called Big Magic. And it's funny. It's by Elizabeth Gilbert. And as I was reading this book, because multiple people have mentioned it to me, given it to me, I wasn't really having a lot of, aha moments. I wouldn't say this is a top 5 by any means, but there was a few things that really stuck with me. And I love this when this happens with books. And Elizabeth talks a lot about your creative process and keeping it as playful and mysterious as you possibly can. Like she suggests that it really fluctuates and, it's like she talks about how these ideas just hop around, right? And they find the right person. And I just learned so much from her, even though she's a writer, and that the biggest mistake you can ever make is to write a book for someone else, right? Thinking that people will or won't like it, or making assumptions about the success of the book, and that we should always write for ourselves and our own creative expression. And content creation, I actually believe to be very similar. I think it has to come from this really true and authentic place. It has to come from our highest good, our greatest creative energy. But that doesn't mean that we can't create when we're not a 10 out of 10. Okay, it's both. So in the intro to this episode, I said, do we kind of suck it up and power through, or do we listen to our intuition or our energy when it comes to showing up and following the ups and downs of creativity? And it is both, okay? And we can really get granular and define this into like, what are our non-negotiables? If I'm feeling a little funky or my energy is not feeling a 10 out of 10, I am not going to cancel calls with my clients. I'm not going to cancel podcast interviews or podcast recordings, like anything that is the meat and potatoes of what makes my business run, I'm showing up for. Now, being totally sick and having a fever is another thing. I'm not saying like, let's suck it up to that extent. Okay. But if you're just feeling like your creative energy is low, we have to have tools in our toolbox to get it to a 10 out of 10 before we have to like, quote unquote, perform, right? Like athletes don't get to sit out of a game because they didn't wake up in the morning a 10 out of 10. Actors don't get to sit out because they didn't wake up in the morning a 10 out of 10. These highly successful people, business owners, athletes, doesn't matter, have the tools to get themselves to a 10 out of 10 or as close as possible so that they can perform. And content creation and running a business is very similar, but it can also be both, okay? So I am never going to not use my tools to raise my frequency, to show up for my non-negotiables. But then in business, there's what I call negotiables, which are creating a sales page or writing emails or things that have a little bit more wiggle room and where they fall on the hierarchy of importance. And those things, we can make adjustments based on our creativity. This episode is a beautiful example of that. I could have been a robot and pulled from my list of content that I've written for you guys and just delivered, here's my 5-step process for X, Y, and Z, whatever I had on my idea list. But it wouldn't have felt as genuine or authentic as having the same conversation with you guys that I'm having with my peers and my business owner friends. And that's a commitment that I've made to this podcast, is that it will be very real, very raw, very behind the scenes. And it allows for me to, of all, stick to my commitments and show up, right? But to B of all, have that flexibility to tune into my intuition and allow my creative processes to guide me. So this is a perfect example of it's both, right? I used my tools. I did my meditations. I did a little bit of research to get inspired for this episode, to get myself to a 10 out of 10. And I feel great. I'm here with you and I feel great. But I'm still in this weird, like, just kind of resisting some content creation this week. Kind of resisting face to camera time. Kind of resisting, having that killer idea for a reel. And I can't explain why that happens. I mean, we can dig into the solar system and astrology and our feminine cycle. And those things I'm kind of used to and I can identify. But sometimes it seems like the shift in energy is even bigger, right? So like I was coming off of a super high last week, and it felt like I was kind of catapulted into this, I'm not going to say super low, that's dramatic, but this lower frequency of creative energy. And now that I'm noticing it and paying attention to it, I'm like, okay, I'm ready for you to be done now. But we can do both. We can suck it up and show up for what's most important in our business. And we can allow for some flexibility and authenticity and creativity. And the greatest leaders, in my opinion, acknowledge these energy patterns and they set a positive example for their team or for their community, whatever it might be, on how do we balance that power through in our intuition, right? If all my highest priorities for the business are done, even if they're not, and I think a walk or going to yoga is going to best serve my mental health to show up for my business and for the people that I'm trying to help, that's great, right? That's leadership. What we don't want is this forceful energy. And now I'm cranky in my Slack channel and kind of bouncing off my negative energy onto other people because I don't have the tools to rein it in and to channel it into something good. That's what we don't want, right? Like, let's just all humanize the fact that content creation is insane and hard. And I probably only do it at a fraction of what a lot of these really successful content creators do. I mean, my friend Angie this morning sent me an account to look at for inspiration because she does similar coaching programs. And I'm like, my jaw's on the floor. Like, I am tired just looking at her content because all I can see is the energy that I would expend to create it at that level. And sure, we can talk about delegation. Okay, I'm getting there. I'm growing. I have an amazing team of incredible contractors. And like most CEOs, I'm the bottleneck of the content creation. But I don't expect them to master something that I haven't mastered, right? So back to the point, I'm looking at this account and I'm like in awe because it's so amazing. And she has this way of making it look so effortless, but all I can see is the amount of effort that it would take me, right? Because we're all built differently. And this is why we don't want to fall into that comparison trap, which I wasn't necessarily comparing. I'm looking at it for inspiration and ideas. And I'm getting some, but I'm also getting that clarity on what won't work for me. And that's so important. And that's part of understanding your creative mind is when you see something and you say, wow, that's really impressive, but that is not for me. That is great. That's you understanding yourself and how to show up as the best version of yourself and how to get the most out of your unique energy. We all have our own unique capacity for creation and for energy. And if we're too busy trying to emulate someone else It's not going to come from the best version of ourselves, that that authentic, magical place, right? It's going to come from this place of imitation, rather than inspiration. And we just want to pay attention to all of that. It's not about being perfect, but the internet is not going to crumble if we don't post on social media. And what's cool that I've actually noticed this week, normally on days that I've given myself permission not to post or not to show up, I just don't do it. I move on. But what I've noticed this week is like, I'll get a little spark of an idea either later in the afternoon, or last night it was even in the evening, and I'm still posting, right? Because I didn't force it. I just waited for that teeny little flicker of an idea or a message or something that came through that felt valuable to my audience, that I thought my audience would value, right? And that's where that intuition comes in, is like, we're not taking a nap. We're not sitting back and just waiting for something magical to happen. But we can slow down and listen and say, it's okay if I don't save the world today, but I will listen and pay attention if anything does come through. And really talking to yourself with that amount of kindness and compassion and gratitude. Like, I'm so grateful that I had such a killer week last week, because it's okay for me to slow down this week. I feel like I conquered everything last week. So this week we had a couple interviews or meetings get postponed. So I had extra time on my calendar. What a gift. I was able to have an extra long meditation today. What a gift, when I'm feeling a lower energy, a lower creative, producing type energy. I'm not feeling negative or sad or anything like that. It's very, I feel at peace. I feel calm. I feel happy. It's like there's just a blank canvas where I'm like wanting all the creative ideas to come. And I know you guys have all experienced that, which is why I'm having this conversation, not to make it a Liz pity party or anything like that. But I just know, as business owners, especially if you are considering yourself a solopreneur, our business relies on our energy. And I'm getting there. My team does some incredible things that allow me to step away. I upload the podcast and they handle the rest. And now Gio is doing some really fun projects on LinkedIn that I'm like, I don't even have to pay attention to, right? Like, we are doing some really cool things that don't require my energy. But that golden gate of the business, right? Like, I'm numero uno. I am the bottleneck. So much of it is still reliant on my energy. And I feel like the universe smacks me with this every now and then, because I know my ultimate goal is to build something that doesn't rely only on my energy. So there's probably lessons here for me to continue to push that glass ceiling, right? In time, my friends. But it is so normal for us to have these fluctuations. The most important part is, what are you making it mean, right? So I will ask myself, am I attaching meaning to this? Meaning, does it mean I suck, or I'm a failure, or I'm not getting any leads this week, or my email list isn't growing, or I'm not smart enough, or whatever stories are happening in your mind? That's meaning that you're attaching to these fluctuations. And that's what I've mastered not doing. If I am neutral, I am neutral. This is not good or bad. It just is. My energy just is. What can we still get done today? This has been a beautiful time to work on some behind the scenes things. I updated my speaker page that's been on my to-do list for like 6 months, kind of embarrassing, but it just didn't feel that important. And now I was like, this is something I feel like doing now. I'm going to cull through some video from my event last year that I haven't touched in 6 months. And I still got projects done that required my time and attention. It just didn't come in the form of face to camera, all the bright lights on, right? And that's okay. And I didn't attach meaning to it. In fact, I've turned everything into something positive. What can I get done? What have I been putting off that I can do now? This conversation with you all here on my podcast, feeling very vulnerable and real to say out loud to the world, like, I am not always a 10 out of 10. Now, the important part is that I know how to get to a 10 for a short window of time when my community is relying on me. I will never take the stage at less than a 10. But there's still so much that goes on to content creation and running a business, and we are not always going to be at our creative best, and that is okay. That is a normal part of being a human being that is building and operating a business, right? That doesn't necessarily come with PTO or paid leave, right? If we don't work, stuff doesn't get done. It's a different world, and we are in this together, okay? So give yourself the permission to slow down. Thought I was going to say grace, didn't you? It's one of the things I don't say to my clients, give yourself grace. So I feel like when we say give yourself grace, it's like acceptance. And there's and acceptance is fine. Acceptance is beautiful. But we want to learn something, right? And a lot of times if we just say, just give yourself grace, being a mom is hard, we're not opening that door to learn something new from that experience. So we want to give ourselves permission to slow down and learn something new throughout this experience. That's what the brain wants to do. Well, it wants to keep us safe. We have to fight through that. But ultimately, our soul, our highest good, wants us to learn something new from every experience, especially ones that challenge us. And coming off of such a creative high this week with a creative low has challenged me to hold the mirror up and say, I know this is normal, but what can I learn from it? How can I still show up and serve and help people and change lives? Because I really do carry that responsibility every single day. I am here to make somebody's life better. And gosh, what a freaking important and honorable role to claim for myself. Right? I feel like a badass saying that out loud. But I'm also a very normal human being that will have these creative fluctuations. And we want to master the ability of listening to our intuition and that strategic perseverance of what's a non-negotiable, what's going to really hold the business back if it doesn't get done. What's going to keep me from helping the next person if it doesn't get done? And then what can wait? And what am I here to learn? What can I learn from this experience? So I hope that was helpful. If you've experienced all those ups and downs of your creativity and your productive energy, and the winter has been wintering, I never have considered myself someone to get any kind of winter blues, but man, I have been a hermit this winter. I've had so many days where I'm like, I just want to pull the blanket over myself and not get out of bed. And that is very unlike the extrovert that I am. And we had this kind of like glimpse at better weather, and then we have regressed back into the cold rain. But that's okay. Like, there's so many studies, about the winter and how it's natural for us to slow down and natural for us to want to hibernate to an extent. And everyone thinks like, oh, it's the new year, so everyone's going to have all this these surges, and sometimes that doesn't come until February, March, or spring, right? So I'm here for it. I'm here for the lessons. I'm here to grow. I'm here to show up when it's not easy. I'm here for all of it. So tell me how you combat your creative highs and lows, and let me know if this was helpful. If you loved it, leave us a review, share it with a friend. We love, love, love this podcast, and I cannot believe we're approaching 200 episodes. That's going to be a call for celebration. And yeah, I smile when I think about everything that's to come with the Messy Success podcast in our community. And I just appreciate you so much for being here and for listening to my rambles. And I love you guys so much. I'll see you next week. Don't forget to grab your ticket for Elevate and Inspire at elizabethhenson.co/event. And if you're interested in working with me and being part of my signature program, you can check that out at elizabethhenson.co/elevate. I'll see you there.